Now say this out loud as you're driving around in your car.
Join Sports Skillet.
That's what it feels like.
So how do you like it?
So what is it? I'm curious.
You like it like this?
My God, do we love football.
Or like this?
I love the sport of baseball.
And what about this?
You can have a sports show without all the vicious talk.
Simple human decency.
Whatever it is that you like,
Yeah, I like chaos.
we've got it covered.
Right?
It's sports the way you like it.
My friends, you may not know this. It's got everything you want.
Local and national sports talk that's fresh, in season, and FDA approved. If it's hot, you'll find it cooking with Jeff, Jay, and Kelly. They don't just stir the pot, they add more flavor than the other guys. Get ready to dig in and taste some Sports Skillet.
Tastes good.
Remember the TV show Cheers, where everybody knows your name? Never been there. But every time I walk into Wildflowers restaurant on Pennington Circle, I feel at home and that I belong. Friday night, I headed over to Wildflowers, and even though it was packed, I easily found a seat at the bar and got cozy with 17 TVs. Baseball, golf, entertainment TV, you name it, including all NFL games. The bartender Dave suggested I order the Buffalo Wing Sampler, and you could tell he was a fervent fan. But reviews on Wildflowers Inn Restaurant Facebook page demanded I try the garbage truck pizza, and Kelly had just arrived and promised to help me dig in. Then it came. Garbage truck pizza does not live up to its name because it smells amazing and it tastes even better. Freshly sliced peppers and pepperoni, garlic, mushrooms, mozzarella, and meatballs all baked on this incredibly crunchy and warm double crust to hold it all together perfectly. Heaven, especially with one of their 23 beers on tap. I'm a believer. Go to wildflowersinrestaurant.com for more info or just come in. They are conveniently located on the Pennington Circle, right near I-95. I promise you, they will welcome you warmly, feed you well, and perhaps soon even know your name.
And welcome to the weekly edition of the Sports Killer Radio Show, where we talk about all the hottest issues in the world of sports. Reminder that you can also hear us every Sunday on Fox Sports Radio 920 The Jersey. And you can also check out the great content on sportskillerradio.com. We enjoy having you aboard every Friday afternoon. Lots to dissect, lots to talk about. And as always, we do it with our friend Ken Moskowitz. Ken, how are you doing today?
Well, we're surviving the rain. I'm just like you guys down there. I know up here in the north we're surviving the rain. Thankfully, it's moved out now. It's breezy, so hopefully the sun will be out by the afternoon, but late afternoon that is. But we'll see.
Absolutely, we can certainly use the sunshine. And how, at the beginning of the show, how can people follow you on social media? We want to get you out there. We want to promote you a little bit.
Sure thing. On Facebook, it's Ken Moskowitz, parenthesis, Crossing Guard Ken. And both on Instagram and on Twitter, it's Skywarn Spotter Ken.
Awesome. And Ken, lots to talk about. Let's start with the Philadelphia Phillies. Certainly, when we talked last week, the Phillies were struggling a little bit. They continue their struggles. What do you think is going on with this team, Ken?
Well, I be honest with you, really, I'm not 100% sure. I really, honestly, just like every other fan out there, Phillies fan out there, I'm a little on the clueless side. I mean, I really thought Gabe was going to, rally the troops last Friday for the start of this 26-game stretch against all the division, or against our division rivals, and of course it started in Atlanta, where we had an 8-4 lead at one point, ended up losing it late in the game, 9-8. Then there was Saturday where we, came back, managed to rally to come back to win 6-5, and then of course, the struggles were just really set by Sunday's end, in which, of course, that was that big 15-1 loss. And, I mean, now, granted, they had, what was it, to the tune of 2 postponements.
Yes.
And, I think the mindset would have been there as far as trying to, see what they could do to prep against the Nationals in D.C. And lo and behold, here comes the doubleheader. You lose that. Both games in the doubleheader as well as last night's game. I mean, the next 16 games, at least the next 16 games before the break, are really, really, crucial for them to just, to get back into the mindset of keep taking series after series after series. Because the last thing that we would want to see from this ball club in the next 16 games from last Friday under the break is to, God help us all, have them go 1-20, and that that would be
disastrous
for them to do that. And I don't see it happening. Realistically, I don't see it happening because there should be no reason why we can't win against the Marlins. I mean, for heaven's sakes, come on now. But the way they're struggling right now, Jay and everyone, it's not. Yes, it's for this team. This team is really, honestly, too good on paper for them to literally go 1-20 by the time the break comes from last Friday to the All-Star break. But it's in a little inkling. It's not out of the realm of possibility, though. So I mean, they really got to get their heads in gear, I think, starting tonight.
Oh, absolutely. Now, do you think it's a result of their struggles being a result of Matt Klentak not doing enough to get players onto the team? Do you think it's Gabe Kapler's managerial style, that he's not being firm enough with his team, that he's not putting his foot down? One of the big things that we can point to with Gabe that people are starting to point out is his handling of Gene Segura. Gene Segura doesn't hustle. Gabe comes out, says, okay, I've talked to him about it. It's a non-issue. He's going to hustle from this point going forward. And then all of a sudden, a couple of weeks later, it's a more egregious non-hustle. It's like Segura slapped him in the face and said, hey, you know what? I'm not going to be punished for this. You're not giving me any repercussions for this. You're just talking to me, so I can do what I want to do.
Right. Well, I mean, as to now, did something occur behind the scenes between the two of them? We don't know, for sure. But by the sounds of it, possibly. But again, who knows? I mean, and it's surprising for, Segura not to be hustling because he overall, he seems like he's had a good season. Not an over-the-moon top of an excellent season, but he's had a really good season in his first year in Philadelphia overall. I just don't know what's been happening as of late with him. But to your point, though, to get back to your point in regards to, is it Matt Klentak or, well, I think it's as far as if I had to point a finger, it would have to be a slight finger towards Gabe right now, only for the fact that we were up as many as, what was it? 3.5 games up in first place back on May 29th.
Yeah, it seems like a long time ago.
All the right stuff was happening, and we're win some ball games. We've been winning series after series overall. As far as this starting last Friday, again, slight point at the finger towards Gabe because I think, in my opinion, he should have groomed the guys more for that series in Atlanta. And let's not forget, what is it, in another week and a half to 2 weeks, I believe it is, a week from this upcoming Tuesday, if I'm not mistaken, guess what? They're back in Atlanta again. The way the schedule is, it's really weird, but they're back in Atlanta 2 Tuesdays from now. So, I mean, it's hostile territory. I mean, in Atlanta now, I believe is what, 4.5 games up going into this evening. So, I mean, they're not looking to fall back anytime soon, it doesn't seem. So, I mean, see, here's the thing that I relate to. When the first thing I relate to when it comes to the manager is back 2010 with Charlie Manuel. Now, I'm sure everybody remembers when the big three were in the lineup at one point. There was one point during the season which when the big three were playing in the lineup, and you know who the big three are. They were winning ball games. Yes, they were 5 games above 500. And then when the big three went down, and this is where you had Wilson Valdez play 86 games at short for Jimmy Rollins at the time. They had a stretch at one point of, don't quote me on the record, I believe it was to the tune of like 52 and 26. And that was without the big three in the lineup. So that tells me that Charlie Manuel said, look, we're down our big three right now. We need to get our rears in gear and let's go kick some butt. As far as defensively and offensively to of course lock up the wins against these opponents. That being said, fast forward now to 2019, my opinion at this point now, and again, you're looking at least a 16-game stretch before the break. It's all against division rivals, yes, 3 of which are once again at SunTrust Field. Gabe has really got to really take the bull by the horns and make this thing happen, because I'm going to tell you right now, again, 1-20 before the break, from last Friday to the break, one win and 20 losses.
That is horrible.
Yes, it's unrealistic that it'll happen, because again, we should be winning ball games. We need to win ball games again against the Marlins starting tonight, and at least against the New York Mets. Otherwise, it's not really out of the total realm of possibility that it could happen. And if it happens, I don't know what's going to happen from there on out.
And I think that Mets series is shaping up to be absolutely huge for the future of both franchises, because both those teams right now are struggling, are gasping for air just to kind of stay relevant and to stay alive. Going into Friday night's game, the Phillies are 4.5 games out. The Mets are just above the Florida Marlins at 9 games out there, and the Mets can't afford to fall any further beyond that. So the Mets are going to be throwing everything they possibly can at the Phillies and vice versa when they play the Mets. So you got to believe that is going to be huge. One team could wind up being almost done for the season. I mean, the Phillies, yes, they're only 4.5 games out, but depending on what they do in this series, and then heading into the series with the Mets, they could be 7.5 games out. If they get swept, I mean, these are a couple of huge series against these teams, and it's gonna affect the rest of the season. I mean, the Mets, if they get swept or lose 2 out of 3 to the Phillies, they could look at being rebuilt for the rest of the season, and their season being done before the All-Star break. So these are a couple of huge series coming up.
Yeah, yes, oh, no doubt. And to add on as well too, I was taking a quick glance earlier at the as far as the National League wild card standings go. Now, granted, we're a half a game behind both Colorado and Milwaukee.
Yep.
Now, for Colorado, it's not, they have, and what is it, out of their next 10 ball games, 7 of which starting tonight, the 3 are going to be in Los Angeles against the first place Dodgers, and then another 4 in about another, week or so in Colorado against the Dodgers. So, I mean, they don't, Colorado has got a bit of a tough stretch ahead of them. And as far as Milwaukee goes, now in their next 6 games, at least these next 3 could be very well competitive, possibly, because Cincinnati is rolling into town there for 3. And then after that, Seattle, which of course is right now is pretty much irrelevant in the West of the American League. I mean, they're rolling into Milwaukee for 3. So, I mean, for the Phillies right now, my opinion is this. For the Phillies right now, I wouldn't worry about Atlanta being in first. I wouldn't worry about both first-place wildcard teams. I would just roll with the punch and roll, punch and kick, whatever you have to do to win series after series right now, at least until the break. And now, hope for the best. I mean, that would be my word to Gabe. If Gabe were next door to me, that would be my word to Gabe, and hopefully Gabe can translate that to the players. Say, look, let's do what we got to do to win series after series right now until the break, and then we'll let's regain our focus, and then we can regain our focus in a huge way to what hopefully would be a big second half.
You got it. And I also think Gabe has to come out and he has to show his anger a little bit more too. He has to put his foot down in the locker room. He has to have the players having accountability. And I do think that playing Segura the game after and not benching him at all, I don't care. I know the Phillies need to win these games desperately to keep up with Atlanta or gain on Atlanta. I know how important Segura is to the lineup, but Segura's been ice cold, and you got to send a message if you're Gabe Kapler to the locker room saying that we want you to bust it. We want you to be like Bryce Harper, bust it out of the batter's box, because you never know what can happen on a fly ball or a ground ball, and that if you tell me something in my office, I am going to hold you to that. I am going to hold you accountable to it. And I would have benched Segura for not just one, but a couple of games. And I would have gone even further than that. To send the message to the locker room, I would have had Segura walk the minute he didn't hustle that ball out coming around first base and costing the Phillies a double. I would have allowed him to come back onto the field, and then I would have pulled him. Embarrassed him like that, because if you're Gabe, you have to set some accountability in the locker room. You have to say, if you don't hustle, if you don't listen to what I say, if I bring you in my office and we have a discussion and you say X, Y, and Z, I am going to hold you to that. And, sometimes some players need to be embarrassed. Need to be shown that, hey, there is accountability on this team, and we're going to hold you to that. So yeah, I would have benched Segura.
Yeah, I totally agree. I agree 100% with you, and also too, yes, the tough love thing. You have to have it as a manager. I mean, I get it that this is a new generation of ball players that we're looking at and dealing with and seeing on a nightly basis, a day-to-day or a night-to-night basis. But at the same time, they're professionals, and they need to have that tough love given by who we all know is the manager. I mean, at the end of the day, it's the man. This absolutely correct. The manager is the one who's got to set the stage, just like parents set the stage for their kids. Same thing with the manager in baseball. I mean, and just to keep in the back of the heads, I'm pretty sure Gabe knows this too, and I'm sure he still has it in the back of his head. Let's not forget, beginning of the season, I believe it was right after the speaking of 15-1, the score of 15-1, when they lost by that score to the Nationals at the beginning of the season in South Philly. John Middleton made no bones, and he came out and said, right now everybody's on a short leash. So, I mean, Gabe has got to know that, and I'm sure he does. Therefore, he's got to set the stage right now, and again, at least these next 16 ball games, and say, look, you know what? We need to come out punching and swinging and do what we got to do to win this ball game. Now, whether he has yet another lineup change or what, now, in my opinion, as far as these lineup changes go, I think personally it's a little much because of the analytic era and that, but and maybe that might have something. Maybe that might be something where it may not be holding well with Segura. Who knows? Who knows what the actual reason is? But I mean, this Gabe has really got to come out swinging tonight and starting tonight, because like I said, by the time the All-Star break rolls around, they have a rather major losing record. By the time the break rolls around,
I hope not.
It's not going to look good.
No, not at all. I will disagree with you on the lineup changes, though. I think Gabe has to do whatever he can to inject some life into this lineup, because it has not been hitting. When you get shut out, when you're only scoring 1 or 2 runs a game or 3 runs, this lineup has the potential, game in and game out. 3 runs should be a minimum that this lineup, when you have a Rhys Hoskins, when you have a Jay Bruce, when you have Gene Segura, when you have Bryce Harper on this lineup, to expect this lineup to score 3 runs a game, I don't think Scott Kingery, I don't think is asking too much for this lineup. 3 runs at a minimum, game in and game out, should be mandatory. These guys have shown that they can walk, have shown that they can get on base. They have power. Kingery has power. Rhys Hoskins, Bryce Harper, they have power. So asking this lineup to score a minimum of 3 runs a game, in my opinion, is not asking too much. And when they're not, when this lineup is struggling, I think Gabe Kapler is right. Switch it up, move guys up and down the lineup. Right now, with McCutchen being out for the year, I think that the Phillies leadoff hitters, they're down to about 3 choices. And we discussed this offline before the show. I think one is Scott Kingery. He can bat leadoff. I know you want him down maybe 3rd, 4th in the lineup. You want him in a position where he can drive in some runs, because right now he's the Phillies' best hitter. I understand that, but he also draws walks. He's also been getting on base. He's probably the most feared hitter in the Phillies lineup right now. He can steal bases. Scott Kingery can be the leadoff hitter. Number 2, and he did this the other night, Bryce Harper. I know people were up in arms why you're batting Bryce Harper leadoff, but you look at it, he's doing the same exact thing that Andrew McCutchen was. He's hitting a home run on rare occasions, but he's walking and he's getting some extra base hits. So he's doing kind of the same thing McCutchen was doing. So Bryce Harper would be my second choice. And then, of course, Roman Quinn, assuming he can stay healthy and be active. Throw Roman Quinn out there in center field, play Scott Kingery at third, and let Roman Quinn lead off. He has speed. Yes, he has to show us he can hit consistently, but right now, those are the three guys that I would bat lead off for the Phillies, and I would put Cesar Hernandez, I would drop him to like 7th or 8th. He's just not hitting consistently enough for me right now.
Right. Yeah. No, I agree with you. No, I do agree with you. For as much as for as much as I'm an old school, and I know you are too, for as much as I like the set lineups, obviously it's not gonna happen, and especially right now with McCutcheon out. And then of course you got a few of the ice cold players too, that aren't doing anything right now. Yeah, you need to shake things up a bit, and I do get that. But it pretty much goes back to Gabe Kapler as well too. You know what, Gabe? You're going to put that lineup out there. Great. Let's see what you got, and make these guys do what they have to do. Hustle, ground and pound for that. In terms of on the bases or defensively, do what you got to do to win that game. To win these games. At the end of the day, what's important right now, and especially this little stretch, is the wins. The wins. It's utterly important right now.
And just to kind of wrap up our Phillies discussion,
sure.
A lot of talk about Bryce Harper, about his contract. People are saying he should be hitting more home runs than what he's hitting. And I'm saying it depends on where he's hitting in the lineup, that he's actually living up to his contract. He's getting on base, drawing walks, getting some extra base hits. I think the home runs will come. I'm not going to blast Bryce Harper because he's one of the guys that game in, game out, at bat to at bat is actually showing hustle, is actually trying to inspire his teammates with what he's doing on the field. And outside of hitting home runs, that's the only drawback to what he's doing. But I say he's fine the way he is. I would like to see him hit more home runs personally. I would love it. It would help the Phillies. But as long as he's getting on base, that's fine. And you also have to look at the way that teams are pitching him. If nobody's hitting in front of him or behind him, like a Rhys Hoskins, then he's going to be pitched differently. People are going to pitch around him. And I don't want him striking out every single at-bat trying to hit a home run. I would rather him draw walks, get a double, than strike out trying to hit a home run. What do you think, Ken?
Yeah, that's the important thing. Like the way with Kingery lately, having that good eye. That would be the one advice I would give to Bryce Harper. Just make sure you have that good eye. Otherwise, like you say, to your point, like you said, he is getting on base. He's getting the at bats. He's getting on base. The last thing you want to see him do is strike out a ton, and especially in this era of the analytic age, you don't want, there's that capability, the Earl Weaver era, if you want to call it that, waiting for the 2-run home run, but yet you're striking out. That should not be the way baseball is played. Baseball should be played having that good eye, for what pitch is next that you're going to be expecting to possibly either one swing at or two. Hopefully it'll draw you the walk. The good eye though for Bryce Harper is what I would send the advice. Have the advice for. But aside from that, though, I mean, I agree. The home runs are going to come into play. Soon from now, they will. They will. I mean, we still have a ton of games left to go. So, I mean, really anything can happen right now. But I would say, I'll tell you, look, it's his first year. He's getting used to playing, yes, for a new team. But at the same time, he seems like he's settled in nicely. Everybody, they all love each other. Bryce loves everybody on the team and vice versa. And we all know he's a vet, by standards, because all the growing pains we should be behind him right now, back in DC. So, but I would say though, what, if he doesn't hit a ton of home runs this year, they're going to definitely come starting next year. There's no doubt. I'm still expecting him to possibly could be anywhere between 30 or 40 home runs. I mean, and especially with the offense that we're looking at right now, despite the struggles. So I mean, he'll have a decent year. He's going to have a decent first year by year's end. Second year going forward, though, I would expect, honestly, I would expect a lot more from him.
Yeah, I would too. Switching over, we had the NBA draft Thursday night, and the Sixers have a new guard on their team. What did you think of the Sixers draft, Ken?
I think look, this kid's supposed to be really, really good defensively, which that's wonderful. The question is, though, what is his shooting ability like? I'm expecting, the way I see it, I'm expecting this kid, to play in games for Brett Brown. But my thing is going to be, though, too, okay, now if we sign Butler, okay, if we do give Butler that max deal, and of course, with Ben Simmons, now would we be expecting Jimmy Butler and Ben Simmons to be nothing but shooting for the stars, more or less, while this kid's defending? Defense is the name of the game as well, but I mean, I'm hoping that they will work with him in Camden throughout most of the summer as far as having an offensive game goes. But defensively, I hear nothing but great things about him.
Yeah, and this looks like it's going to be an interesting offseason for the Sixers. Rumors are out there about Al Horford entertaining an offer from the Sixers, or at least wanting to meet with him. We just heard last night a Woj bomb dropped in about Kawhi Leonard, possibly, and again, it's possibly, nothing definitive, possibly taking a meeting with the Sixers. So that would be interesting going forward. Seeing if Kawhi comes to Philadelphia, see if he accepts a meeting. Me personally, when I heard that, I don't know if it's somebody working Woj, if Kawhi's team, media members. Now, I don't, his salary is kind of set as to what he can make, but maybe there's another sweetener in the deal, or maybe he just wants to see what else is out there. But to me, it wasn't like, okay, Kawhi is going to meet with the Raptors. Okay, Kawhi is going to meet with the Clippers. This was a maybe, wasn't anything definitive. And number two, like we discussed off air, my position is that until I see Kawhi come to Philadelphia or meet with Elton Brand and anybody else from the Sixers front office in person, not sending out his team. Me personally, until I see otherwise or hear otherwise, I'm treating this maybe at best as LeBron 2.0, where LeBron knew where he was going. And he knew he was going to the LA Lakers, but he sent his team out to just give a cursory meeting to the Sixers. I don't want to see this town get hyped up about Kawhi coming to Philadelphia. Nothing has been said about that. All that's been said is a maybe. Maybe he'll take a meeting. And will it be Kawhi, or will it be just Kawhi's inner circle meeting with the Sixers and everybody getting all worked up again? Until Kawhi comes to Philly, until I see him meeting with the Sixers brass, I'm treating this as nothing more than a rumor. What say you, Ken?
Yeah, I agree. Right now, I would go on record and say that it would be, that it's a rumor. Elton Brand, as well as Brett Brown and all the upper echelon there, they're looking at nothing but trying to make sure that they bring that championship home to Philadelphia starting next year. With championship aspirations and whatnot. And of course, the upper brass made mention that if we have to go through the tax threshold, so be it.
Yeah.
So, look, right now, I agree. It's a rumor. We're looking at LeBron 2.0 most likely. But look, hey, that would be the shocker of the off season and shocker in the basketball world. With quite some time if the Sixers were to land Kawhi Leonard. I would not doubt Elton Brand for anything right now. Look what he did. During the beginning of last season, Jimmy Butler, Tobias Harris. He did what he had to do to try to get this team to what hopefully would have been to the next level, which we were only inches, from making that next level. Had it not been for Kawhi Leonard's game-winning shot, mind you.
Yeah.
But look, right now it's a rumor. It's nice to dream, like the lottery, nice to dream, but right now, I would agree. It's a rumor.
Yeah, I agree. Also, another hot issue that we'll kind of wrap up with is the Women's World Cup. They remain undefeated, and they go against, I believe it is Spain on Monday. So, your opinion on the Women's World Cup so far, Ken?
Today I believe Spain. I thought Sweden. I could be wrong on that.
I think it is. I will look it up. But I know for a fact they're playing on Monday.
Right. Yeah. Let's think it. Basically, I would say, that. Keep doing what they're doing. Keep doing what they're doing. Show them show them what the game is all about, and beginning before the game, and of course after the game, the last two games, they showed awesome solidarity towards the opposing team, team and their players and coaches and that. Saying, look, you know what, you got, you girls are wonderful, you women are wonderful. There's always next time. You're taking that next step. It's great. But as far as our beloved U.S. team, though, I see nothing but a cup in front of them right now.
Yep. Oh, yeah. I think, you have to look at USA as the favorite to win the World Cup. They just beat Sweden 2-0. So, again, they remain undefeated. Now, they did have a couple of nicks. One of them is probably one of our favorite players, Julie Ertz, got a little nicked there in the last game, was pulled at halftime. But they look to be fully healthy when they go in and play on Monday. So it was more, from what I heard, it was more of anybody that got pulled from the game was more precautionary than anything else. So the USA women should be fully healthy and ready to go on Monday.
Right. Okay. So this is all right. Yeah, I got it. So this is Monday is the start, I believe, of the knockout round. And I heard you say about them winning two. Okay. No, I don't mind making it.
Hey, no problem, Ken. You know, like I said, there's a lot going on. NBA draft, Philly's struggling. You know, definitely a lot going on in Philadelphia sports. Right now, there was let me get the team up here. There's actually one more thing I wanted to discuss with you that just came out today. Actually, it involved, I believe, one of the Eagles linebackers. Let me get it here. I heard it on my way in. Not Joe Brown. L.J. Fort. And it involves the Pittsburgh Steelers. And apparently, this piece was written by a writer out in Pittsburgh. That apparently affects the Steelers' compensatory pick for Le'Veon Bell, and somehow it's starting to come out that if the Eagles keep L.J. Fort on their team this upcoming year, the Pittsburgh Steelers will get, I believe it is, a third-round compensatory pick. But if the Eagles cut L.J. Fort, the way the compensatory pick works is that the Steelers would lose that third-round compensatory pick and not get anything for him. And so right now, apparently, as we sit here today, Howie Roseman has the Pittsburgh Steelers over a little bit of a barrel. Let's see if I can get the story here. Here we go. L.J. Fort could cost the Eagles a third-round compensatory pick. But somehow it's relating to the Pittsburgh Steelers as well. And so there may be a deal forthcoming between the Eagles and the Steelers so that the Steelers keep that pick. It's an interesting story. I'm going to have more on it again on the show coming up this Sunday morning at 11 a.m. I'll talk about it a little bit more then. But apparently it involves the Steelers and the Eagles, a third-round compensatory pick. So maybe there may be something worked out between the Steelers and the Eagles where the Eagles, wink, wink, keep L.J. Fort on their roster the entire season. And in exchange for doing that, there may be a deal worked out where the Steelers may throw the Eagles a bone and say, here's a fifth-round draft pick, or something like that, because the Steelers aren't going to want to lose that compensatory pick.
Right. So they would be gaining. All right. So they would be gaining a third round.
Yeah. It's like if the Steelers, if the Eagles cut him, the Steelers lose that third round pick, right? It's a compensatory.
And we still have it. We would still have the third round.
And we would still have our, I don't think it affects us as much as it affects the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Right.
You know,
that sounds. It makes sense.
You know.
So I mean, look, if they were to throw a bone, if they were to throw a bone, like you said, and you know, in order for us to keep LJ Fort, yeah, we might lose the 3rd round, but yet we're doing the 5th round. My opinion, so be it. And then lo and behold, you have Howie Roseman, master of the trade. He'll work his magic. I'm sure.
Here it is too. ESPN's Bill Barnwell reported that the Steelers could lose a 3rd round compensatory pick in the 2020 draft if Ford, an inside linebacker who signed a 2-year deal with the Eagles this offseason, doesn't remain on Philadelphia's roster for at least, quote, a couple of games in 2019. Pittsburgh has been banking on getting that compensatory pick after trading their 3rd round pick in next year's draft to Denver in the trade that enabled them to move up to take linebacker Devin Bush with the 10th overall pick in this year's draft. So again, if you're a team and you're Pittsburgh, you're like, okay, we're getting that pick. If the Eagles cut him, LJ Fort out of training camp, and he's not on the Eagles roster for, quote, a couple of games, however many that turns out to be, 3, 5, whatever. Now all of a sudden you're Pittsburgh and you've lost the 3rd round draft pick. So that could be something where if Howie Roseman on the phone with the Pittsburgh Steelers saying how much is that 3rd round pick worth to you for us to keep LJ Fort. Now LJ has to perform well in training camp. Don't get me wrong, but how much if we keep LJ Fort on our roster for a couple of games, how much is that 3rd round pick worth for you? What can you give us as an incentive to keep him on our roster after training camp? So that could be a little maneuvering between the two GMs. Eagles could end up with like a player here.
Yeah. I mean, interesting news. Interesting stuff.
You know,
interesting stuff.
Yep.
I mean, we'll have to keep our eyes on that.
Oh, absolutely. But Ken, we enjoy having you on the show each and every week. Can you let people know how they can find you once again on social media?
Absolutely. Ken Moskowitz, parenthesis Crossing Guard Ken on Facebook, and on both Instagram and Twitter, Sky1 Spotter Ken.
All right, and we are going to keep our eyes on the Phillies this week, and hopefully they can regain some momentum, start getting some confidence back, start showing us some Phillies baseball, and not lose any more ground, and maybe even make up some ground against those Atlanta Braves.
Well, let's hope. Let's hope.
All right, Ken, thanks so much, and we will talk to you again next Friday afternoon on the Sports Skillet live stream.
You got it, Jay. Thank you very much. Take care.
You too, Ken. All right, and of course, that was Ken Moskowitz. We enjoy talking to him each and every week. We're going to take a brief commercial break. As we do so, we want to encourage you to come out for the Knights of Columbus, Tony Muschienti annual golf outing at Cherry Valley Country Club. We are going to have an awesome time out there. We do this every year. This year, it will be taking place for our first time the end of July, Monday, July 22nd. It's easy to sign up for the event. Just go to our website, sportsskillerradio.com. The link is there. The link is also there for you to download our app so you can listen to us wherever you may be, in the car, at the beach, wherever it is. Download our app. You can hear our show on 920 each and every Sunday morning at 11 o'clock. But click on the link for the Tony Muschienti Knights of Columbus golf outing. It is literally, guys, the best golf outing out there. We are going to have a helicopter ball drop this year. You're going to see a ton of golf balls dropped out of a helicopter. It is going to be simply amazing. It is going to be all over social media. You want to be there. You want it on your social media account. You don't want to miss that helicopter ball drop. We are going to have prizes galore, raffles galore. Just walking in, just playing, you're going to get a coupon for a new club. You're going to get a take-home commemorative photo of your group that you played with during the golf outing. You're going to get a chance to win a chance to golf at Trump National in Bedminster, New Jersey. Lots of local businesses are giving us prizes. They keep increasing all the time. So you want to come out. It's Monday, July 22nd. Take a 3-day weekend. Who couldn't enjoy a 3-day weekend? The end of the end of July. It's going to be hot. Oh, and by the way, after the golf outing, pay an extra $15, jump in the pool. Cool off, jump in the pool. There's a nice cabana there. Who wouldn't enjoy all this stuff? And you get breakfast and lunch buffets made by the award-winning chef Chris at Cherry Valley. There is not another golf outing, guys, that can top this for what we are giving you. Swimming, helicopter ball drop, 2 buffets. The course is absolutely amazing. We want to see you there. Just head over to sportskillerradio.com, click on the link, and enjoy a nice day of golfing. Take a 3-day weekend. You deserve it. You know you do. And enjoy that over at Cherry Valley Country Club. Now we're going to take a quick break, and hopefully on the other side we will come back with Pat Ragazzo and talk some Mets and talk some more sports with him. So you want to hang on and stay tuned for Pat Ragazzo coming up on the other side.
Now say this out loud as you're driving around in your car.
Join Sports Skillet.
Just what it feels like.
So how do you like it?
So what is it? I'm curious.
You like it like this?
My God, do we love football.
Or like this?
I love the sport of baseball.
And what about this?
You can have a sports show without all the vicious talk.
Simple human decency.
Whatever it is that you like,
Yeah, I like chaos.
we've got it covered.
Right?
It's sports the way you like it.
My friends, you may not know this. It's got everything you want.
Local and national sports talk that's fresh, in season, and FDA approved. If it's hot, you'll find it cooking with Jeff, Jay, and Kelly. They don't just stir the pot, they add more flavor than the other guys. Get ready to dig in and taste some Sports Skillet.
Tastes good.
Remember the TV show Cheers, where everybody knows your name? Never been there. But every time I walk into Wildflowers restaurant on Pennington Circle, I feel at home and that I belong. Friday night, I headed over to Wildflowers, and even though it was packed, I easily found a seat at the bar and got cozy with 17 TVs. Baseball, golf, entertainment TV, you name it, including all NFL games. The bartender Dave suggested I order the Buffalo Wing Sampler, and you could tell he was a fervent fan. But reviews on Wildflowers Inn Restaurant Facebook page demanded I tried the garbage truck pizza, and Kelly had just arrived and promised to help me dig in. Then it came. Garbage truck pizza does not live up to its name because it smells amazing and it tastes even better. Freshly sliced peppers and pepperoni, garlic, mushrooms, mozzarella, and meatballs all baked on this incredibly crunchy and warm double crust to hold it all together perfectly. Heaven, especially with one of their 23 beers on tap. I'm a believer. Go to wildflowersinrestaurant.com for more info or just come in. They are conveniently located on the Pennington Circle, right near I-95. I promise you, they will welcome you warmly, feed you well, and perhaps soon even know your name.
here on the Sports Skillet Radio Show. We are just waiting for Pat Ragazzo. We are running late today, so I do apologize to both Ken and Pat Ragazzo. And we should have him on the line shortly. I believe this will be Pat. And let's get Pat up here. Pat, are you there?
Hey, Jay, how's it going?
We are doing great today. And, of course, this is Pat Ragazzo from USA Today Sports and Fansided.com. We want to encourage you to check out his work at MetsMerise.com and the Giants Wire, and give him a follow at Ragazzo Report on Twitter. Pat, lots of things going on, both with the Phillies and the Mets. They seem to be kind of in the same funk here. Mets just fired their pitching coach. What's going on with the New York Mets?
Yeah, Jay, well, it's June 21st, and the Mets are 5 games under 500 after falling to the Cubs last night.
Yep.
And 9 games out of first place. So yesterday afternoon, they used their first scapegoat, as the Wilpons generally do, firing the pitching coach, Dave Island.
Yep, and they brought in actually 3 guys to replace Island. You know?
Yeah. So they brought up Pat Reeland, who's 82 years old, but he's well respected around the organization and the game as a whole. He pitched with Sandy Koufax back in the 50s and 60s. He was actually the Chicago Cubs closer in 1969, and he's been with the Mets for a while. So he came up. He actually worked with all the pitchers, the young pitchers in the Mets organization. So Syndergaard, Matz, Wheeler. He worked with all of them, and he's very respected in those guys' eyes. And they also created a new position, calling up Jeremy Arcardo from their minor league system too, as a pitching strategist. So it seems like the Mets are doing whatever it takes to get their pitchers and their entire staff and bullpen out of this funk that they've had, that really has seen them underachieving this season.
A pitching strategist. Do you have any idea what that job actually entails?
Not at all. This is a completely new position that seems like they just made up, but they're doing whatever it takes, to figure out, I think, why a team built around pitching with all this talent and these young arms is struggling as bad as they have been.
Yeah, could it be that he's going to do more of the analytic side of the pitching, bring in analytics? Because you're talking about a 73-year-old pitching coach. Maybe he's not as well versed on all the analytics and deciphering it and figuring out what it all means. So that's why they brought in, created this new position.
Well, the way the game's going, there is a ton of analytics in it.
Yeah.
So if that's the case, then yes, this is a smart move by them, because you can't put it all on an 82-year-old pitching coach. And honestly, it hasn't been working. Whatever analytics they've been using for their pitching staff this year has not really worked. The rotation's been doing well, but they were struggling for a good portion of the season, and the bullpen's been the worst in the league. And especially over the last month, they have an ERA in the 7 range, and they lead the league with 16 blown saves. So, as much analytics as they could bring in, usually it pays off in the game of baseball the way the game's been going.
How long do you think Mickey Callaway has left as manager of the Mets? I mean, they removed the pitching coach. Do you think they remove the hitting coach next, or do you think it would be Callaway?
Well, first of all, I'm very surprised that they removed Island before they moved Callaway. But the reports I was hearing yesterday is that Jeff Wilpon is the biggest backer of Mickey Callaway, and if that's the case, then Callaway's not going anywhere unless his team falls to 20 games out in last place behind the Marlins. I don't see Mickey going anywhere right now. I think they're going to try and stick with him as long as possible.
So do you think he's probably going to finish out the season then, it would seem, if he's got the backing of ownership?
Yes, I totally agreed, and that's exactly what it looks like is going to happen. I don't necessarily agree with this. It's not, and don't get me wrong, it's not all Callaway's fault. And right now, he hasn't gotten the most out of what he's been given, but he also hasn't been given a lot. This solely falls upon Jeff Wilpon and Brody Van Wagenen for constructing a poor team in the offseason.
Oh, I would agree. Just from the decisions that Van Wagenen has made, they do not seem to be working out at all.
None of them have worked. The only move that has paid off for him right now to this date is trading for J.D. Davis from the Houston Astros, and no one knew he was a career 200 hitter, and nobody saw the kind of talent that he was going to have. But other than that, all his other acquisitions have flopped. Edwin Diaz was the centerpiece of this offseason with that trade, and even he's been struggling over the last month, and he's been unreliable, and part of that we could just attest to being overused by Mickey Callaway, which is true. But Diaz, I mean, he hasn't done a good job so far in the beginning of his Mets career.
And we also have injuries to two of the Mets, Yoris Familia and Justin Wilson. Any way to fix the Mets bullpen at this point?
That's a great question. So Familia was pitching really. He doesn't even look like the same pitcher that he was in his career or even last year with a 7.8 ERA. So there's something wrong with him. They diagnosed it as a Bennett lesion in his shoulder. So he's going to be on the shelf probably for the rest of the year, or if not, a long period of time. The Mets were hoping to get their lefty Justin Wilson back with all the bullpen struggles, and he got scratched from Syracuse the other day with another. His elbow was barking at him again, and that's he's dealt with this injury now. This is the third separate occasion that he's had a setback. So I don't know if and when we're going to see those guys again this year. Familia, though, was really he's not right. That there might be an even more serious injury there, but on the other hand, the Mets do have some young guys in their farm system. They actually just called up Steven Nogosic, who they got in a trade for Addison Reed 2 years ago, and the kid showed off a pretty live arm against the Braves the other night. He was pumping 97. He almost got out of a clean inning in his major league debut, and there was runners on second and third with 2 outs, and Nick Markakis coming up, the lefty, and Mickey Callaway, as he often does, arguably overmanaged and brought in Daniel Zamora to face the lefty-lefty matchup, who Zamora has failed in those situations on numerous occasions this year, and he got beat once again. So those 2 runs actually got charged to Nogosic. But if guys like Nogosic and Chris Flexen, who also throws 98 and pitched well in relief over the last couple of days, guys like that can step up and wind up finding themselves in the high-leverage situations and succeeding, then maybe things could turn around for this team.
Nice. Now, they do have a couple of big series coming up. 3 more against the Cubs, 4 against the struggling Phillies, and 5, against the Braves and Yankees coming up. I look at the Phillies series to be huge for both those teams. Whoever wins that series could elevate themselves a little bit more, get some good feelings about themselves. But if whichever team ends up losing that series could almost be looking at, in the Phillies case, could be looking at the wild card, depending on what Atlanta does. And for the Mets, if it's not already done, maybe the nail might be put into the coffin right before the All-Star break.
I agree. Both teams need to be looking at this series as a playoff series. The Phillies obviously have more breathing room, being only 4.5 games out of the Braves and close in the wild card spot. And the Phillies have been decimated by injuries, I'm sure you know. And, and the Mets are just underachieving. And if things don't turn around quick, the Mets have such a tough schedule over the next 11 days that this first half of their tough schedule, they haven't rose to the occasion at all. And this I think will prove them being sellers. And at this point, I truly believe from my end that they are going to be sellers at the deadline in a month. There's nothing, because it's not even, the bullpen has been unreliable and the worst in the league, but when it's not the bullpen, it's not the pitching, it's the offense, and vice versa, and that's a sign of a bad baseball team. So I really think the Mets are going to be sellers in July, and I think Zach Wheeler is going to be their main centerpiece, to get the biggest return back for
this contract year. He could be. I think that would net the Mets the biggest, out of all the players on the team, I think he would net them right now the biggest return.
Yes, I agree, and they're not going to trade Syndergaard or DeGrom, and DeGrom just signed a new deal, and they're going to hold on to Steven Matz, but I think Wheeler in his contract year, it makes all the sense in the world to trade him next month. I don't see them climbing back into this one unless something dramatically turns around over the next even couple days, which is pretty much the limit they have because they have such a tough schedule now for the next 2 weeks again. Which I don't, realistically, I don't see them turning it around. So I just, I think that if how it should go, then Mickey Callaway, if they do fall out of contention and Mickey Callaway, they want to become sellers, maybe Mickey Callaway does lose his job, but right now it doesn't seem that way. They keep giving him the vote of confidence that he does have the organization behind him, which is, that's the biggest vote of confidence you need and the most support you need is from the owner. But I don't agree with it necessarily or think that it's right. They will continue to scapegoat, though, which is as they always do.
That is a rough situation. Just remove Mickey for crying out loud. Just remove Mickey Callaway and get a better manager in there, right?
Yeah, they won't have a choice. Pretty soon they won't have a choice. The fans have already been calling for Callaway's job, and again, this is an upper management issue that they assembled the team and it wasn't good. Every guy flopped or was injured. I also actually want to get to another issue, and that's the Mets' mishandling of injuries. Now, Brandon Nimmo he was seeking a second opinion and got that one from David Wright's doctor. And it turns out the bulging disc in his neck, he needs to be shut down for the next 30 days. So that's another example of the Mets mishandling an injury.
Oh, yeah, you hate to see a team doing that to a player, especially like Brandon Nimmo. That to me is an unforgivable sin because you have an asset on your team like a Brandon Nimmo. You need to be doing everything you can to keep that asset, to keep that player healthy and on the field, and to misdiagnose it. Now all of a sudden you're going beyond the GM, you're going beyond the manager. Now you're going into the medical staff that needs to be changed.
Yep. And these are just constant issues, unfortunately within the Mets organization year in and year out. And really they change managers, they change athletic trainers, medical staffs, general managers, and unfortunately the only constant is the Wilpons running the show and doing their micromanaging, and they always kind of meddle and get in the way, and that's really something that's holding this team back.
Yeah, you hire people. You're supposed to have trust in the people that you hire and let them do their job to the best of their abilities, and then you evaluate them after that, and you say, did these moves work out? Did they not? Were they managerial? Were they talent-based? Whatever the case may be. Then you go down and you evaluate, and you maybe move on from a manager or a GM. But when you hire a GM, you're putting him in charge of hiring a scouting staff and a front office personnel and a manager that he feels can get the job done. And then if the manager doesn't get the job done, you say, okay, I gave you a chance. I'm going to give you one more chance. Replace the manager. And if that manager doesn't work out, then you're gone. We got to move on from you, and this was a novel move with the Mets, bringing in Brodie Van Wagenen as he was a player agent, and so far it just hasn't worked out. As you say, it hasn't worked out for the Mets, so you have to look also at Brodie Van Wagenen and maybe moving on from him after maybe next season, or give him another season to right the ship and see what he does. But, like you say, the moves that he's made haven't borne fruit, any type of fruit.
Yeah, Brodie, the thing is, he was an agent, so he knew how to, bargain for dollars, and get the most for his clients. And then also he knew how to value players. So that's what he was good at. And that's what people fell in love with in the offseason, was that he was getting these names, he was getting these major leaguers, and he was getting them, for, I'd say, decent prices, at least as free agent acquisitions. And, but he's not – the Mets have always had a scouting issue, so he brings these guys in, and they either are underperforming or not on the field. That's why back in November when they hired Brodie, I was disappointed because I wanted them to bring in Chaim Bloom, who works in the front office for the Tampa Bay Rays and oversees all their scouting and player personnel. The Rays were a 90-win team last year, and they're in the playoff race again this year with little to no payroll. And they really are very good at scouting and developing players. And I think Chaim Bloom would have been a perfect fit for them, as I thought Joe Girardi was a perfect fit for them to be manager a year before when he got let go, and the Mets instead chose to hire Mickey Callaway because the Cleveland Indians were in the World Series.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I can't believe Joe Girardi doesn't have a job right now, managing a team somewhere. That kind of surprised me, especially with, all the teams going to analytics and him, having success with the Yankees. And I just can't believe that Girardi doesn't have a job somewhere. But we want to switch over to football real quick. Daniel Jones made an appearance at Yankee Stadium this week and got booed by the Yankees fans. Now, do you think it was a booing at Daniel Jones, or do you think it was a booing at the Giants organization?
I think it was more of a booing at the Giants organization.
Me too.
I do feel for the kid, though. I don't think it's fair, and it doesn't make New York sports fans particularly look that good for doing that. I mean, the kid hasn't played a game yet, and it's not like he chose who drafted him and at what pick. Giants fans are upset because they wanted Josh Allen at 6, and I admit I wanted Josh Allen too. I thought it was the smartest pick with their lack of pass rush. But this kid's done all that he can, and he's said all the right things, and he's looked great in spring practices so far, and OTAs and minicamp, and I'm excited to see what he can do. You got to give the kid a chance before he plays a game. And it's really unfair that he went to the Yankee game and he got booed in his own city. So that's embarrassing for a 22-year-old kid.
I completely agree. I mean, I can't tell you how often people bring up the Donovan McNabb booing, at the NFL draft years ago. Here's a kid coming out of Syracuse University, gets drafted by the Philadelphia Eagles as their franchise quarterback, and it turns out the Eagle fans wanted Ricky Williams at the time, and it turns out that Andy Reid and the Eagles organization made the exact right call drafting Donovan McNabb, but the Eagles fans booed him, and that's been brought up ad infinitum around Philadelphia and around the nation every time Donovan McNabb's name gets mentioned. And it's sad to see that, once again, fans booed a new Giants quarterback when he hasn't even thrown one pass in training camp or thrown one pass in a preseason game yet. I mean, see what he's like when the pads come on in training camp, or see what he's like when the preseason games begin, because you're going to see him then too, and a lot of him. So, like you said, give him a chance. Let's see how good he is when the pads come on.
Yeah, well, with the NBA draft last night, you remember Kristaps Porzingis was booed by the fans 4 years ago when the Knicks drafted him, and we all saw how that turned out.
Exactly. And speaking of the NBA draft last night, the Knicks made their number 3 selection, not a surprise. How do you think the Knicks did in their draft last night?
I think the Knicks did great. They actually made the most sensible pick that they've made in years, at least from the fans' point of view, that we haven't, because even dating back to Porzingis when people questioned that pick, this made the most sense. R.J. Barrett was the 3rd best player in the draft, and that's the pick the Knicks held, and that's who they took. He said he only wanted to go to the Knicks, and he was actually spotted in New York City yesterday, said he was already out apartment shopping, that he would only go to the Knicks, only work out for the Knicks, and only talk to the Knicks. And awesome. He is a very, very talented player who played with the most dominant player in the draft, and he's clutch and a very good all-around player, averaging 22 points a game, 7 rebounds, and 4 assists. He also shot 45% from the field. So I'm very excited to have him come into the Knicks now. They have their youth movement with last year's first-rounder, Kevin Knox, at the 3, and Barrett will play the 2, and I think they'll be a very good young duo.
Very cool. I'm looking forward to seeing him on the court with the Knicks. Have you heard anything about the Knicks, what their plans are in free agency?
There's some whispers already that they may wind up going the Kevin Durant route and redshirting him this year. I don't necessarily know how much truth there is to that yet at this moment, and I don't know how I feel about that either. But on the other hand, Kyrie was their big target this summer as well, next to Durant. And it seems like Kyrie's either going to be going to the Brooklyn Nets or reuniting with LeBron with the Lakers. But there's a couple other good point guards out there in Kemba Walker and D'Angelo Russell may be available too if the Nets decide to get Kyrie. So if that were, to kind of fall up upon the free agent market, maybe the Knicks could offer some money to D'Angelo Russell. He had a great year for the Nets last year, and I would take him in a heartbeat for the Knicks.
Gotcha. And tonight is Chase Utley night down at Citizens Bank Park in Philadelphia. I know the Mets are big fans of Chase Utley and his style of play and, his hard-nosed style. And now he's going to be honored by the Philadelphia Phillies tonight. Your thoughts on Chase Utley's being honored by the Phillies tonight?
I mean, he deserved it. He deserves it. He had a great career with the Phillies. He was a great player for a long time. Helped them win a World Series in 2008. From the Mets side of view, I mean, what happened with him happened where he took out Ruben Tejada in the playoffs in 2015 and broke his leg. It was a dirty slide. He didn't apologize, and he wasn't properly disciplined. So there's that, but it doesn't take away from his talent-wise on the field that he had a great career. The funny thing is, though, I've heard a lot of Philadelphia sports fans say things like, "Oh, we wish that Mets fans wish that David Wright was as good as Utley." But if you go back and look at the numbers, David Wright beats him in every offensive category in less games too. I don't know if you knew that, Jay.
No, not at all. I didn't realize that.
He's David Wright, even though he played in less games because of injuries, he beat Utley in almost every offensive category in his career, and average, on-base percentage, slugging, RBIs, home runs. David Wright. People forget how good David Wright was because he was so injured. The Mets wasted his prime years, and two, he was injured his last 4 or 5 years of his career with that spinal stenosis. But other than that, Utley's had a great career. But confusingly enough, Andy Martino from SNY actually wrote a piece because Chase Utley was in the news last week. I think you heard, Jay, that he was on TV in L.A. and they asked him, "Do you like the New York Mets?" And he just answered with a flat-out no. No. Which is pretty funny, actually. He was trying to be funny, but we know the feelings are mutual between the two sides. But that's what motivated Martino from SNY to come out and say that, write a piece that the Mets fans should actually be thanking Chase Utley and show gratitude towards him. What do you think about that?
I don't think there'll be any gratitude shown to Chase Utley anytime soon between the New York Mets fans and Chase. I don't see a reunion anytime soon forthcoming between either side.
No, yeah, I totally agree with you. He doesn't. The Mets fans, why would they show him gratitude? Like, what for? I don't understand that. That opinion by Martino as to why the Mets fans would ever show gratitude to Utley, because it's not like he apologized. He didn't do right. He pretty much he derailed Ruben Tejada's career on a dirty slide on a big stage in a huge playoff series, and he wasn't even properly disciplined for it or apologized. So I don't really understand that. And speaking of Ruben Tejada, actually, he's back in the Mets organization playing at their AAA team in Syracuse, and he actually hit for the cycle the other night.
Oh, wow. Do you think he has a chance of getting promoted, or do you think he's just going to play things out at AAA?
Well, I actually think that he may be promoted in September. I don't think they have a pretty big surplus of infielders right now, so I don't expect to see him until rosters expand in September. That maybe he might wind up getting the call, because he has been hitting well and playing well for them at the Syracuse level.
Yeah, I didn't know if they might promote him, to put some, get some people to come out. Not that people will come out just for Ruben Tejada, but maybe as like a spark to the club or to change things up a little bit. If he's hitting well, I didn't know if they would promote him before then.
The only reason I don't think so is because they really do have a lot of a pretty crowded infield, and a lot of their infielders are playing in the outfield right now with guys like Dom Smith and Jeff McNeil, and then they also have backup infielders who have produced pretty well at the big league club, and Danny Echeverria and JD and guys like that, like JD Davis, who also has been playing in the outfield too. So.
Gotcha. As we wrap up here, just want to get your thoughts on the U.S. women's national team. They remain undefeated. Next game will be Monday.
I'm excited for that.
Absolutely, so am I. I'm hoping they can remain undefeated, maybe even bring home the World Cup.
Yeah, they've certainly had the most success and represented the U.S. in soccer really well over the years. You know that this is they correct me if I'm wrong. They had won the title relatively recently, right?
Yep, absolutely.
Yep. So hopefully they can bring home another.
Hopefully they can. And Pat, we want to ask you, what do you got coming up this week on Metsmerized.com, Giants Wire, or USA Today Sports?
Well, all's pretty quiet along Giants Wire right now.
Gotcha.
Everyone's getting ready for training camp, as you know, in the next few weeks.
Yep.
It's coming up fast, but right now it's kind of like a dead period, I'd say. Just little like around the NFL, just little headlines here and there. So
such as the new pass interference ruling that just came down this week.
That's right. I love that rule. I think that as you know, it would have most likely changed the outcome of the NFC Championship game last year when the Saints felt they were robbed by the no call.
Without question. You know, it's going to be interesting. They only have applied it for this upcoming season, where, you know, the last 2 minutes of each half, the eye in the sky, the replay official can buzz down to take a look at a play and review it and see if it was pass interference or not. I think it could change a couple of games here or there. It'll be interesting to see how often this occurs in how many games. You know, whether it's a constant thing going on and people are like, you know what, it's delaying the game, you know, or if it actually changes the outcome of the game and people are receptive of it.
I think it'll definitely change the outcome of games and people will be receptive of it because they'll be making the right call. How many times did either no calls or wrong pass interference calls in the end of games change the outcome for all the wrong reasons?
Exactly. You know, and like you said, this is definitely on the heels of the Saints playoff game last year, and who knows what happens if the pass interference is called then. So it'll be interesting to watch going forward. But I didn't want to interrupt you as to what you got going on this week.
Well, mainly for Metsmerized, we will be covering the Braves coming to Citi Field, and hopefully the Mets. It'll be coming off either a low rock bottom or a high note, depending on how this series finishes out with the Cubs and then with the Phillies. Mets are going to Philadelphia at the beginning of next week. So that's, as we said before, it's pretty much like a playoff series for both teams at the moment, especially with the Nationals creeping up. Nationals just swept the Phillies this week. So really just covering that, you know, the Mets, the ending of the Mets' brutal stretch and you know, determining whether they're going to be sellers or not by the end of next week. We'll know for sure.
Gotcha. And we want to encourage everybody to give you a follow at Ragazzo Report on Twitter for all your commentary, all your fun stuff. Pat, we love having you on every week and can't wait to talk to you again next Friday afternoon.
Likewise, Jay. Thanks for having me on. I'm looking forward to next week.
Anytime, Pat. Feel free to come on. All right. And we'll be talking to you again next week.
Take care, Jay.
Take care, Pat. And, of course, that was Pat Ragazzo. Again, as we said, you can check out his work at Metsmerized.com and the Giants Wire, and also at USA Today Sports and Fansided.com. And as I said, give him a follow at Ragazzo Report on Twitter. You know, such a great day. Hopefully, Phillies are going to get back on the winning track. But as we do each and every week here on the Sports Skillet radio show, what we do is we have this segment called Twish. And what it is This Week in Sports History. And let's see if I can find it. What we are going to do is what we'll do now is we'll take another brief time out, and when we come back, we will have, actually, no, what we will do now is we will go to This Week in Sports History, and then come back, maybe talk a little pro wrestling as we do every week to kind of wrap up the show. So here is This Week in Sports History.
Welcome to This Week in Sports History, sponsored by Wildflowers Restaurant. I am Jeff Sellner. Let's dive right into the history books. On June 24th in 2010, American tennis player John Isner defeated Frenchman Nicolas Mahut 6-4, 3-6, 6-7, 7-6, 70-68 in their first round encounter at Wimbledon. The longest match in tennis history took 11 hours and 5 minutes over 3 days. The match broke the previous records for the longest match, the longest set, the most games in a set and a match, the most aces in a match, and the most aces by a player. Eisner would lose in the second round in straight sets. On June 25th in 1978, Argentina became the 5th team to be both hosts and world champions as they defeated the Netherlands 3-1 in the final of the World Cup Soccer after extra time. The final was held in Buenos Aires. This was the last World Cup to use the original inclusion of 16 teams. FIFA expanded the tournament to 24 teams in 1982. On June 26th in 1985, Wilbur Snap, an organist for the Clearwater Phillies, was ejected from the game by umpire Kevin O'Connor for playing Three Blind Mice in response to what he thought was a bad call from O'Connor. The umpire pointed to Snap, who was sitting at his organ behind first base, and thumbed him out of the game. On June 27th in 1988, Mike Tyson defeated Michael Spinks at Convention Hall in Atlantic City, New Jersey in 91 seconds. Both men entered the match undefeated and each had a claim to being the legitimate heavyweight champion. The match at the time was the richest fight in boxing history, grossing $70 million. Tyson earned a record purse of $20 million and Spinks $13.5 million. As mentioned, Tyson won the fight by knockout in just 91 seconds. The fight was billed as a once and for all. On June 28th in 1919, Carl Mays pitched 2 complete games against the New York Yankees in a doubleheader at the Polo Grounds in New York. In Game 1, Mays shut out the Yankees 2-0, giving up 7 hits with no walks and 3 strikeouts as Boston won 2-0. In Game 2, the Yankees came back to defeat Boston 4-1 as Mays pitched all 8 innings, giving up 4 runs, 2 walks, and 5 strikeouts. 28,000 fans attended the doubleheader. On June 29th in 1986, Sparky Anderson, as manager of the Detroit Tigers, became the first manager to win 600 games in both the American and National Leagues, as the Tigers defeated the Milwaukee Brewers 9-5. In total, Sparky won 2,194 games as a manager for the Cincinnati Reds and Detroit Tigers. Sparky Anderson was inducted into the Hall of Fame in 2000. On June 30th, 1965, the NFL granted a franchise to the city of Atlanta, Georgia. The NFL moved into the Deep South for the first time. Originally, it appeared that the AFL would put a franchise in Atlanta, but NFL Commissioner Pete Rozelle acted quickly and lined up an ownership group. The AFL settled on Miami. Thank you for listening to This Week in Sports History, sponsored by Wildflowers Restaurant. I am Jeff Sellner.
Hey, and we are back here on the Sports Skillet radio show. And we are going to talk some pro wrestling to close out the show, as we always do. And we value your questions and comments as well. You can find Sports Skillet on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and of course here on our YouTube channel. Just do a search for Sports Skillet and we will pop up. Again, we want to encourage you to come out for our Tony Muschienti Knights of Columbus golf outing that will be held on Monday, July the 22nd at Cherry Valley Golf Club or Country Club in Skillman, New Jersey. It's a great course, and let me tell you guys, I cannot stress this enough. Go to sportsskilletradio.com, click on that link right there, click on it right there, click on it, and then you will be part of what is probably the best golf outing in the spring, summer, or fall. We will throw golf balls, dump golf balls out of a helicopter. That will be all over social media. You right there, you want to be the one posting that on your social media accounts. You want to see it as it takes place. The golf ball's coming out, and the winner, the ball that gets closest to the hole or is the first one that goes in, is going to win a fabulous prize. Is going to be able to take a helicopter ride around the area with that person and a significant other. Child, girlfriend, wife. You know, if you have an anniversary, what would be a better anniversary present than taking your wife or your girlfriend up in the helicopter and going all around there and seeing that? So, I mean, it's a fabulous prize, and we're going to have other things going on as well. Tons of prizes, tons of raffles. As soon as you go in there, you get a free golf club, you get a commemorative photo, 2 fabulous buffets done by the award-winning chef Chris of Cherry Valley. Absolutely an amazing time. And at the end of the golf outing, once you've had your lunch buffet for an extra $15, you get to go and jump in the pool. Amazing day. Just take a 3-day weekend. Enjoy it. You deserve it. Come out, golf. Click on the link, sportsskilletradio.com. It's right there. Oh, and by the way, while you're over at Sports Skillet Radio, download our app so that way you can hear our show on Fox Sports Radio 920 The Jersey every week starting at 11 a.m. You don't want to miss it. We have great guests. This week we will have Tyrone Johnson. I'm sure you've seen him on 97.5 The Fanatic as co-host and producer of the Mike Missinelli Show. And you can see him every weekday, 2 to 6 o'clock on NBC Sports Philadelphia. They simulcast the Mike Missinelli Show, so you can actually see him on your TVs every weekday from 2 to 6 p.m. Ty is absolutely amazing. We're going to have a nice debate on the show about Reese Hoskins, probably about the Phillies, maybe the NBA draft. If you have any questions you would like us to ask Ty, right there, right in the comment section, leave us a comment. And we'll ask Ty on the show. You will get your question answered to Ty. Let us know what questions you want, and we'll get them answered. Love having Ty on the show and each and every week. So wanted to wrap up the show, as we always do, talking a little pro wrestling. And we have Stomping Grounds from the WWE taking place this weekend. I'll give you my predictions for the card. Seth Rollins versus Baron Corbin for the Universal Championship. I don't see Seth Rollins losing the title to Baron Corbin, so Seth Rollins is my pick there. Kofi Kingston versus Dolph Ziggler for the WWE Championship inside a steel cage. Rumors have been abounding that Shane McMahon may be the one who dethrones Kofi Kingston in the future, that may be what they're building for. I would hate to see that. I hate to see the McMahons as the, be it Stephanie or Shane or Vince. It's fine that they're involved in storylines, but they don't need to be the top heel of the country. I think Shane is kind of getting overexposed each and every week. And my prediction would be for Kofi Kingston to retain the WWE Championship there. Becky Lynch versus Lacey Evans for the Raw Women's Championship. I'm going to go out on a limb here. I am going to go with Lacey Evans here. It also would not surprise me if Lacey Evans wins the Raw Women's title this summer. If not here, then maybe at SummerSlam, or maybe they set up a SummerSlam match for Becky to regain the title with some special stipulations there. But I'm going to go out on a limb. I'm going to say, the way they've been building this feud, I'm going to say Lacey Evans wins the Raw Women's Championship and continues the feud with Becky Lynch right there. Bayley versus Alexa Bliss for the SmackDown Women's Championship. That one's going to be interesting. I don't know that the WWE will put the belt back on Alexa Bliss, but again, this could be the same type of scenario where Bayley loses her title only to regain it later on down the line. Again, Becky's going to have her partner at ringside, so that could play into this as well. So we'll see how that goes. But I'm gonna say Alexa Bliss wins this one and takes the title and makes Bayley have to come after her and see what goes on with that, and kind of extends that feud there with those two. Roman Reigns versus Drew McIntyre. I'm going to go with Roman Reigns here. I think he's going to hand Drew McIntyre a loss and then set something up for SummerSlam coming up. Samoa Joe versus Ricochet for the U.S. Championship. I'm going to go with Ricochet here. I'm going to say Ricochet takes it. If Ricochet does not win this, then something will happen that will extend the feud a little bit. That will, be hanky, and the feud will go on. I think that the WWE is promoting Ricochet in more of a main event type role, and they're building him up a little bit more, having him go up against Samoa Joe. So I think Ricochet could take it. Take the title. If not, again, Samoa Joe cheats or does something to extend the feud and push it to next month. Daniel Bryan and Rowan versus Heavy Machinery for the SmackDown Tag Team Championship. Again, a lot of title changes here, but I'm going to go with Heavy Machinery in this one. I think they deserve a run with the title. They've been slowly building up Heavy Machinery. Heavy Machinery looks like that fun team that people can get behind, with doing the Caterpillar and everything. So I think there could be a title change here as well, that Daniel Bryan and Rowan lose the title and have to change it against Heavy Machinery. Or again, maybe something hanky goes on and the feud goes on to next month. But I'm going to go with Heavy Machinery here. I'm rooting for a lot of title changes on this card. Big E and Xavier Woods versus Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn. People, if anybody needs a win, it is Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn. They're basically down to enhancement talent status at this point, putting over guys. I mean, they need a win badly. So I am going to go with Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn. They need a win. Every time we see them nowadays, they've been coming up on the short end of the stick. They need to rebuild some of their credibility. So I'm going to go with Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn. And finally, Tony Nese and Drew Gulak against Akira Tozawa for the Cruiserweight Championship. Three-way dance. I'm going to go with Tony Nese here. I think he's going to come away with the Cruiserweight Championship. But again, has anybody really cared about the Cruiserweight Championship? I know we have 205 Live, but they just haven't been building up that brand enough. They haven't been promoting it enough. Do we really care about the Cruiserweight Championship? That's the question that I'm throwing out there to you guys. Do you really care about the Cruiserweight Championship? Let us know on our social media accounts. We want to hear from you. So, with that all said, you've got my thoughts for Stomping Ground this coming Sunday. We certainly at Sports Skillet want to hear your thoughts on WWE Stomping Ground, your thoughts on anything in the world of sports. We want to thank, as always, Pat Ragazzo and Skywarn Spider Ken, or Crossing Guard Ken. Ken Moskowitz for coming on with us each and every Friday afternoon. And we want to thank you for listening to our Sports Skillet live stream. Reminder to tune in this coming Sunday at 11 a.m. Fox Sports Radio 920 The Jersey, sportsskillerradio.com. Download our app at sportsskillerradio.com. And while you're there, like I said, sign up for our annual Tony Muscienti Knights of Columbus golf outing. It will be amazing. You don't want to miss it. So we want to hear your thoughts on sports, on our golf outing. Download our app, and we will see you again next Friday afternoon here on the Sports Skillet live stream. And until then, we are signing off, and we want to wish you a very good week. And we will see you again next Friday afternoon right here on YouTube. And if you missed any portion of the show, we will have it up on our social media accounts, so you can check us out there as well. So everybody, we want to say thank you and have a great week.
Now say this out loud as you're driving around in your car.
Join Sports Skillet.
That's what it feels like.
So how do you like it?
So what is it? I'm curious.
You like it like this?
My God, do we love football.
Or like this?
I love the sport of baseball.
And what about this?
You can have a sports show without all the vicious talk.
Simple human decency.
Whatever it is that you like,
Yeah, I like chaos.
we've got it covered.
Right?
It's sports the way you like it.
My friends, you may not know this. It's got everything you want.
Local and national sports talk that's fresh, in season, and FDA approved. If it's hot, you'll find it cooking with Jeff, Jay, and Kelly. They don't just stir the pot, they add more flavor than the other guys. Get ready to dig in and taste some Sports Skillet
Tastes good.
right now.